Opposition candidate Bassirou Diomaye Faye has won Senegal's presidential election and is set to be inaugurated as the country's fifth president on April 2nd, replacing 12-year incumbent Macky Sall. Long seen as a shining example of democracy in West Africa, Senegal has a tradition of clean election and strong rule of law, avoiding the military coups that have plagued many of its neighbors. But the 2024 presidential election showed cracks in Senegal's democracy. Outgoing President Sall at times seemed reluctant to release power, and the election process suffered from numerous controversies, including a delayed election, top opposition candidates being disqualified from the ballot, and numerous arrests and detentions of opposition supporters and journalists. In the end, Sall relinquished his power and democracy prevailed, but it required violent protests and legal interventions to get there. So how does this affect one of West Africa's strongest democracies? Let's use our freedom and prosperity indexes to take a closer look. We'll start with the overall freedom. As we see, Senegal performs well, scoring above the regional average and surpassing the global average in 2011. But the country can go even further, taking the next step by reaching the level of the world's freest countries. With its score fluctuating in recent years, Senegal still has work to do to achieve this level. Now let's take a closer look at the metrics related to the recent presidential election. Looking at elections, one of the 13 indicators for overall freedom, we see that Senegal's score is comparatively much higher. When it comes to elections, Senegal is much closer to the level of free countries. However, its score has begun to drop, decreasing after 2021. While this follows the trend seen in the global and regional averages, the score for free countries has remained relatively even. Fair transition of power requires more than just a clean election. It requires an independent judiciary and a strong rule of law, both of which have been called into question during the recent events. Moving over to the judicial independence and effectiveness indicator, we see that once again Senegal has experienced downward trends in recent years. Unlike elections, however, the gap between Senegal and free countries remain wide. So what do these trends mean? Even though the election ultimately proceeded, Senegal should approach its future with cautious optimism. Data shows that while Senegal has made strides towards greater freedom, progress has declined in key indicators. Senegal has a history of democracy and the ability to cement its place among the world's freest countries. But to do so, they need to reaffirm their commitment to a strong rule of law and leaders that prioritize fair and timely elections. For a more in-depth look, read our latest article analyzing the election and visit our indexes website.